This is Impact on BBC World News. It's a country with one of the lowest birth rates in the world. The government of Singapore is so concerned that it's paying for people's dates to encourage marriage and hopefully babies.
Women are having so few babies that the U.S. fertility rate has fallen to its lowest number in 40 years.
Italy, where the average leader's age is 59 years old. Now, experts say the trend is actually a symptom of the country's low birth rate.
But in Russia, there really are fewer new children to join the fun.
Despite efforts by the Korean government to encourage people to start families, data show the nation's total fertility rate fell to a record low last year. Ko Roon-hee help us look beyond.
Japan's leaders are working on a raft of new measures to encourage citizens to get married and have children.
Well, the worst cases of population decline can be found in Eastern Europe, where many countries will see their population drop by more than 15% over the next 3 decades.
Okay, this might sound bad, hearing countries having an issue on low birth rates. The idea of not having enough humankind could affect the country's economy. These countries are fearing the problem, causing a concern that they may not be producing enough babies if a disproportionate percent is older. Who's going to pay support to the elderly and infirm who's going to fill the jobs vacated by recent retirees as fertility rates across the world decline? In the 1960s, population growth reached an unprecedented rate. In order to keep the population level steady, every woman had to have at least 2.1 kids. Overall, the global fertility rate exceeded the replacement rate, and that's why the UN expects global population to soar from 7.6 billion today to 11.2 billion by the year 2100. The issue is just about half the world's population lives in countries where the fertility rate is below the replacement rate of 2.1. It's mostly a problem in advanced economies like the US, for instance. The fertility rate is currently 1.76, and in Japan it is 1.4, as well as in Italy and South Korea. It is 1.2. The country's closed over 3,500 schools since 1980s because there are fewer and fewer children. Are we in trouble, or are fewer kids a sign of progress? An environment is a system of living things. The earth is our environment. The capacity of our environment to provide space to produce food, supply energy are all limited. Humans thrive on less than 70% of Earth's surface, and only about 4% grow crops. We depend on these limited resources for our survival, yet we are increasing our population as if they were infinite. The fact is at the core of our environmental problems. Never before in history have there been so many people on Earth as right now. Our numbers have skyrocketed from 1 billion in 1800 to 2.3 billion in 1940s to 3.7 billion in the 1970s and 7.4 billion in 2016. The world population increased fourfold in the last century. So, what can we expect for the next century? And what does population growth mean for our future? Will there be mass migration, overcrowded slums and megacities covering continents, diseases and pollution, chaos and violence over energy, water, and food? And the human species focus on only sustaining itself? Will population growth destroy our way of life? Or is this prophecy just underground panic? Population growth varies from continent to continent. The fastest population rises are in Africa and Asia, which will have 8 of the 10 most populous countries by 2050. India is set to overtake China as the country with the largest population. Nigeria has one of the fastest growing populations in the world as well. It's set to become the world's 3rd most populous country. In many African countries, women have on average 5 children each. In Nigeria, it's 7. That's well above the global average of 2.4 children per woman. Populations are rising because of that aging. Fewer people are dying than being born. In the last century, life expectancy has almost doubled in some countries. In India, it's almost tripled. The world state's response to overpopulation is to regulate the type and number of the population on a global scale. According to Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, the world state is the entity responsible for keeping the population at an optimal number for each succeeding generation. By its calculation, a population of under 2 billion is the ideal population number to support global welfare. To ensure realization of its population goals, the world state relies on eugenics and dysgenics. Eugenics basically refers to the breeding of superior human beings for the welfare of global societies. Conversely, in Brave New World, dysgenics refers to the breeding of inferior human beings for the purpose of supporting higher scale populations of the earth. In his novel, Huxley introduces the idea that the population of the earth must not only be maintained at a certain number, but also that the number of that optimum population must be carefully apportioned among the genetically composed superior humans. In the novel, biologically superior ova and sperm are fertilized and decanted as superior species of alphas, betas, and alphas pluses. To ensure a class of almost subhuman beings are able to support the genetically superior beings, inferior ova is combined with inferior sperm to produce gammas, deltas, and epsilons. As an additional step, the gammas, deltas, and epsilons are exposed to what is called Bolkonsky's process. The novel describes the process. One egg, one embryo, one adult normality. But a Bolkonsky egg will bud, will proliferate, will divide. From 8 to 96 buds, and every bud will grow into a perfect formed embryo, and every embryo into a full-sized adult, making 96 human beings grow where only one grew before. Progress. In the novel, Bolkonsky's process is combined with Potsdam's technique, which speeds up the mutation of unfertilized eggs to produce a vast number of these genetically inferior beings. The gammas, deltas, and epsilons are used to perform unskilled menial labor. The world state keeps this group content in its servile conditions by providing the member of this subhuman group easy and plentiful access to gratuitous entertainment, sexual fulfillment, and daily doses of soma, a pleasure drug. Signed drugs like cocaine and heroin aren't legally available in this dystopian world of the novel. Soma is the only available means by which the world state can protect itself from rebellion within its border. It's an insurance policy against uprising and societal unrest. To prevent overpopulation, humans of either genetically of inferior stock, the world state only allows 30% of females' embryos to develop normally. The others develop into what are called free martins, sterile women developed from female embryos that were periodically injected with male sex hormones. Since the world state makes all decisions for citizens, they also decide when human beings die. Those who are too sick and old are not allowed to burden society with their infirmities. Death conditioning begins at the age of 18 months. Every toddler spends at least 2 mornings a week at the hospital for the dying. So, to recap, the world state's response to overpopulation is to control the number and types of citizenry, as well as to utilize euthanasia to dispose of what the state considers useless citizens. Our population is expected to grow to 10 billion by the end of the century, yet the Earth size remains the same. Slowing human population growth and lowering our use of natural resources are key to reducing the impact we have on the planet. Through the decisions we make about our lifestyles, our numbers, and our consumption, we cannot help preserve the health and beauty of our home.